Hey everybody, how's it going? Hope you're having a lovely day. Early in the year, I did a video on the Secretary of the Army requiring right to repair for all contracts. It wasn't just the Secretary of the Army and the Secretary of the Navy. This went all the way up to Pete Hegseth himself and others in the Trump administration. Right to repair for the military is something that they've been trying to do since the first Trump administration, Joe Biden's administration, this administration, and it didn't really go anywhere, but it made quite a bit of progress here. I did a lot of interviews on the channel where I was talking to people within the military about their problems with right to repair, and I also did a push to try and get this included in this NDAA. Senators Tim Sheehy and Elizabeth Warren were also doing that work, and they made it 99% of the way there until it got stripped. Essentially, the TLDR of it, if you want to hear the entire thing from the last video, all of this just kind of got crossed out, and they're replacing all the right to repair provisions with something called data as a service. Data as a service is what you think it is. As you can imagine, just because we deal with some insensitive material, like the schematics that I have are just schematics that I'm not supposed to have, there are times where I've tried to come up with ways of dealing with this that were less likely to get me in trouble prior to doing my YouTube channel and having Apple's law firm ask me to take them down and all that. Like before that, when I actually cared about this, I had very specific rules in place, and I had good reasons for them, and I explained this to them. But those rules were not something that would help them do repairs more. It was just some sort of cover my ass rule. And as a result of that, they were broken almost all the time. And I honestly don't even blame my employees at the time who were breaking these rules, because why do they care? To them, it's absolutely ridiculous that like this should be on this computer where it's encrypted versus this one, solely because like they would just put it on their USB flash drive and they would get the work done that they needed to get done. Because if this took 45 seconds additional of their time in order to access something, they just even thinking about that wasn't worth it to them, because it took them out of the mindset necessary to do a proper repair. Data as a service is going to take the technicians out of the mindset necessary to do a proper repair by adding all these layers of DRM and bullshit that were not there for the past 100, 200 years when it came to servicing any of this type of equipment. I understand what it's like when you give this type of stuff to employees, this extra nonsense where they have to go through hoops in order to fix something. And data as a service is not right to repair. Data as a service is, I'll read some comments. So this is a good one. It says, I repaired sensor technology while I was in the service. I've touched everything from missiles to SATCOM equipment. I've consulted with contractors to design technical manuals for new equipment. Not only is this bullshit, it's also creating the conditions for a national security nightmare. Soldiers are not going to ask Uncle Sam daily to let them read the technical manuals required to perform their jobs. They're going to rip the manuals and save them to personal devices, save them to their personal cloud storage accounts, and share them in all sorts of places on the internet. And they won't think twice if someone claims to work on the same equipment and says they need a technical manual. I see it all the time. They will ignore the training that says not to do any of this, because they're soldiers, and this is just another piece of bullshit interfering with their work. They will figure out how to work around it. This is an insanely bad, poorly thought out idea. This is going to consume an ungodly amount of man hours across the force and delay maintenance service time significantly. If data as a service goes into effect, we will see an unprecedented spike in the volume of leakage of our national security secrets, and we will see maintenance statistics across the force plummet. The negligence demonstrated by House Representative Mike Rogers and Adam Smith for sponsoring the SPEED Act in this form approaches levels of criminality, and I 100% agree with him. When you could say you have these rules at your business, and the way this works is if these rules exist for a good reason, there's a 50-50 chance that your employees will follow them. If these rules exist for a stupid reason, such as somebody in Congress just decided instead of right to repair, in order to get some more money from the military contractors that I made clear in my last video, we are going to put this bullshit in there, none of them are going to listen to it. What I was asking them to do is not because it would make the repair faster. It was not because it would protect customers' data or customers' privacy in any way, shape, or form. This was not going to benefit the employee or the customer. This was purely just a cover your ass thing because we have silly laws in the United States. And anybody who's dealt with repair technicians knows that what this person is saying is correct. Why would I deal with a system where I have to be on the internet and I have to input all this information every single time I want to look at a schematic, when I could just have the schematic ripped onto my flash drive and just load it on my personal device? That's going to happen very often. You're going to create a culture where people realize that it makes more sense to just rip the schematic and deal with it on my own than it does to go through the official system. That is going to then undermine the system that tries to keep some of these documents classified when they need to remain classified, because you've made it more difficult to do so. By the way, for anybody who wants to know why I'm using a screenshot of this is something I've bothered me for about the last 4 years on YouTube. They've made it so you can't use the community comment search feature anymore. This used to be called comments. Now it's called community. This is from years ago. Let's say I search for that guy's name. So his name is Super Good Spam. It actually does not show anything, and I've X'd out every single one of the potential filters that would keep it from showing up. You used to just be able to type somebody's name in here and see every single comment that they made, and it makes me sad that I'm not able to do that easily anymore. Yeah, this is so broken. It's so, I don't know why YouTube did this, but they just kind of destroyed the back end to the point where it makes it harder to find comments. But anyway, next up, tanks that refuse to fire because you're not using original license shells from the manufacturer, whole convoys that stop because the enemy has jammed the internet reception and they can't connect to the cloud, radars that don't show everything they could unless you pay a subscription fee. And there was one comment here that's missing that I wish I had taken a screenshot of earlier that said, great, so it's just like playing an Electronic Arts video game at this point about the military now in real life. True. Data as a service is garbage. Data as a service is everything that doesn't work about right to repair for us, but now being applied to our military, and it's insane. And soldiers are going to find a way around it because this is another piece of bullshit in between them being able to do their job. You're just making it harder for them to be able to do the job that they need when they need to fix things in the field. And when they do find ways around it, you're going to then normalize those methods of fixing things. If you're afraid about any sort of secrets or intellectual property getting out beforehand, oh my God, you're essentially encouraging people to use those methods now. Right now, if we have to fix something, going through the official methods, I just had a conversation with Kevin, the store manager, about this, is we used to buy items in bulk, right? So I would just buy a box or like 20 boxes of screens. They would be available. We'd put them in the computer and they'd work. Now, when you're using Apple's right to repair program, I have to have the device in my possession. I have to enter its serial number and everything else. I have to buy one part at a time from the Apple Surface system. And I have to wait for it to show up. When it shows up, I then have to go on live chat or some shit with them in order to calibrate it to the system. It's fucking horrible compared to what it was before. And you're essentially doing something that's even worse than that, but in the military. And the reason I'm doing this video is because A, this person got it right. As a business owner who's run a repair shop dealing with employees where I have to have good reasons for my rules if I want people to follow them, he's correct. Nobody's going to follow these rules. They're all just going to take this stuff and throw it in the garbage and say, you're making my life harder. Fuck you. I'm going to go around you. And the reason it's important to bring this up is because they're winning. Mike Rogers and Adam Smith are most likely going to get any sort of right to repair provisions kicked out of this. And the only way that's going to change is if there was actual pressure from the White House to make that happen. That means pressure from the Secretary of the Army, pressure from the Secretary of the Navy, pressure from the President, and pressure from the Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth himself. If that doesn't happen, well, enjoy military repair as being like playing an Electronic Arts video game. It sucks. There was a lot of work that went into this. There were several senators from across the aisle that worked together. There were a lot of people worked together to try and get that done. And to see that undone simply so that two people that get a bunch of money from the military-industrial complex could stuff their pocket while robbing the American public blind makes me very disappointed. Shame on you, Mike Rogers. Shame on you, Adam Smith. And dare I say it, I'll say it, shame on the rest of the administration if they let that happen, because you have the power to do something. The Speaker of the House does, as well as the majority Senate leader as well. I believe John Thune, Mike Johnson. If they really, really, really wanted to, they could press on this and do something. And they're likely not going to, and that's a shame. Have a spine. We'll see what happens. Do you think the United States military will be like playing a game with DRM? That's it for today. And as always, I hope you learned something. I'll see you in the next video. Bye now.